hit the record button. You guys should all see on your end that you have to give me permission to record. Does everybody see that? You give me a thumbs up that you see that. So when we log on each night, you're going to rename yourself, make sure your legal name, and then you're going to give me permission to record. And right now I'm going to share my screen. So right now what you guys should be looking at is my pretty blue sky. I needed the sunshine today. You know what I'm saying? Like all this rain and dreary and cloud, and I needed whatever sun I could get. So I'll take fake sun if that's what it is. That's what it takes. So we are on your first day of real estate school. This is the North Carolina Real Estate Commission's pre-licensing course. This is the very first step in your career. We'll talk about what other steps you have to take. There's a couple hurdles that stand between you and your real estate license. So we'll discuss that in just a second. But let's do a brief introduction. Wayne is the director and the owner of our school. I know you guys have been in some kind of contact with Wayne because she sent you an email with the Zoom link that you need to be here tonight. So you should have Lane's email, but in addition, here's her number. So anything related to the school, feel free to reach out to Lane. She can help. We're going to look at that email that Lane sent in just a second as well, because there's some good stuff in there. So I want to make sure you guys see it. For example, has anybody, you can show me by show of hands, has anybody created their online learning system account yet? We have a program. Look at all those hands. Oh boy, I like that. So we'll show you where you can find that, class dates. There's some good information in that email from Lane, so we'll look at that in just a second. Continuing with our introductions, if Lane's the director, then I am the instructor. So you guys, we're going to be together for the next couple months. And I'm here to tell you guys, the next couple months are going to go by fast. Like this is day one. I think like it'll feel like tomorrow that we're at the end of the class talking about, you know, remember when we first met on day one? So hang on to your hats, you guys. So I'm Julie, and this is my cell phone and my email. I know my email's long, but if you look at it, it makes sense. Because who am I? I am Julie, the real estate instructor at gmail.com. So if that helps you, I know it's long, just think about me. And also my cell phone number. Please go ahead and jot this down. I want you guys to have my contact information. I want you guys to feel free to reach out to me at any time you have questions or concerns or something that you're not grasping. I am here as a tool for you guys to use. You know, and this gets tricky because when we're together as a class, we have an agenda and a schedule that we have to follow, but you may have things outside of class in your study time that you're just trying to wrap your brain around. And that's where I want you to reach out to me. So as I mentioned, and I will mention a few more times, this is a fast-paced class, and I don't have a rear view mirror. So some of you may feel like you're starting to get left behind. Some of you may feel like you're starting to like I said, get left behind. And that's when I want you to reach out to me and let me help. Let me help you get through this class. So I'd like you to take just a minute and jot down my information real big, you know, first page of your brand new notebook, wherever it is that you know where to find me when you need me. And while you guys are doing that, just to share a little bit about myself, I started in real estate in 2001. So I'm going to celebrate 22 years this year. That's a long time, isn't it, if you think about it? So I'm celebrating 22 years this year. I actually started as an administrator. I was the behind the scenes person that took care of the agents and let the agents go take care of all the buyers and sellers. And I probably did that for about 14 years. And one day I said, why are the agents having all the fun? Why are the agents out there making all the money and working with buyers and sellers? I want to do that too. So I quit my cushy job, jumped into sales full time. And eventually, I think I've been doing this teaching thing about 6-7 years now, something like that. Today, I get to wear two hats. Today, I'm an instructor for Lane at Carolina School of Real Estate. And then my other hat, I guess I'm kind of back to my roots because I'm affiliated with a real estate firm doing administrative work again. So isn't it funny how things can be full circle and you come back to what you know? So I went back to my roots. You guys will learn a lot about me throughout this class. And I look forward, we'll talk in a minute about how I can start learning about you guys. Everybody have this jotted down? Everybody good? Okay. Couple rules that we have. The biggest rule that we have, well, first off, let me say this. We're here because of the governing body that is the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. Now, we will introduce you to the commission. We'll spend time in the next couple months talking about the commission. But one big rule that the Real Estate Commission gives us is the attendance requirement. And the Real Estate Commission says you guys have attendance requirement that says you cannot miss more than 15 hours. Please write that down. You cannot miss more than 15 hours of class. And that is regardless of the reason. Guys, the Real Estate Commission feels that if you're missing more than 15 hours, you've missed too much. It doesn't matter why you missed. You've missed too much. So I'm gonna keep track of your attendance. I encourage you guys to keep track of your attendance as well. I think this is important to make sure that we all understand, because I would encourage you guys to keep any absences for emergencies, not just take a Thursday night off because you want to. I'm telling you, this 15 hours can add up. If you miss a class here and you miss a class there, I mean, we're together 3 hours a night. If you miss a whole week, that's 9 hours. It just all adds up. So I encourage you to only miss if you have to. And that way, if an emergency or something comes up, you don't fear about going over your time. So 15 hours is the max. And let me say this too. It seems to be the trend, the past, that students are missing like 13, 14 hours. They're not doing great. That's still missing a lot. You guys with me? 15 is the requirement, but I'm encouraging you to not to miss any more than you have to, so you can be here and get the information. In order for me to count you present, it's twofold. One, you have to have your camera on. And two, I've got to be able to see you. If you have your camera on and your laptop tilts up and I see your ceiling and I can't see you, I can't give you credit. So it's twofold. How do I give you credit? Your camera's on and you are in front of it where I can see you at all times. Again, we do take breaks. We'll talk about breaks in just a second. And I do want you guys to turn your cameras off during breaks. But when you come back from break, you're going to want to turn your camera back on. The other piece of this is that we need a distraction-free class. I tend to ask myself the question, if we were in a live in-person environment, would you be doing the activity that you think you're going to do while we're on Zoom? I'm not going to say I've seen it all, but some things I have seen on Zoom is people folding laundry. Would you bring a basket of laundry into a live classroom and start folding your sheets in front of everybody? Probably not. I've seen people cooking meals. I'm not talking about like a hot pocket in the microwave. I mean like skillets and pots on the stove. I've seen meals being cooked. I've seen people shopping in Walmart. Just because we're online doesn't negate the fact that I need you guys here distraction free. So again, just kind of ask yourself, if I wouldn't do it in a live classroom, then please don't do it here. Your focus needs to be here during this class while we are together. Do yourself a favor and eliminate as many distractions as you can. Y'all, turn the TV off. You guys trying to listen to something else in the background while you're listening to me? What's your favorite evening show? Are you trying to watch it while you watch me? Shut down other browsers. Please don't be shopping on Amazon in class or, doing whatever it is you do, gaming, whatever. Shut all that down. Do you find yourself easily distracted by your phone? Leave it in the other room, right? Try to eliminate the distractions you can. I can't compete with the things that you have going on at home. So ask your families to honor this time that we're in class together. We'll look at our schedule in just a second, but ask your families, this is class time. I'll be out for break. We can have a conversation. You can return texts, phone calls, emails, whatever you need to on our breaks. But please make that extra effort to have a distraction-free zone while we're together. There's being here in front of the camera, and then there's being like here and paying attention to the material. Have you guys gotten your books yet? Have you guys hefted this thing? Are you kidding me? This thing weighs how many pounds? In our short 2 months together, give or take, we're going through this thing pretty much cover to cover. So again, this is a fast pace, a fast moving class, and distractions do just that, right? What's a distraction's job? Well, it's distracting you from this material that's getting you ready that you need for this class. So ask your family to help you, ask your family to allow you this time. There's outside study time that's going to be required in this class as well. We will talk about that in just a second. So again, I've had students tell me that they put a sign up on their door that says, mommy's in class, leave me alone, or, mommy's studying now, leave me alone. So just have conversations with your family, please, so they can help us help you, so you can retain this information to get through this class and the other things you guys have. Again, a huge no-no, one thing I will absolutely not allow is driving while on Zoom or riding in a moving vehicle while on Zoom. If I see you in a moving vehicle while we were on this call together, I will remove you from the call. You're welcome to come back when you get to where you're supposed to go. But trying to be on Zoom, whether you're driving or a passenger, because if you're a passenger, now you're distracting the driver. It's not only a danger to you, but it's also a danger to others on the roads too. So I'm not going to tolerate it. And I know this class is difficult because, I asked earlier by show of hands, how many of you coming straight from work? You're pulling in the front door and you're running back here and logging on. So it may be tempting to say, oh, I'm stuck in traffic, I'm just going to log on and start, but I cannot allow it, you guys. We just cannot allow it. It's way too risky. Do you have any questions or comments on that? Good. As I mentioned earlier, we do take breaks. So we take a 10 break about every hour, a 10-minute break. Let me finish. We take a 10-minute break about every hour. So if we start at 5:30, we'll take a break at 6:30. We'll take a break at 7:30-ish. So we do get 2 breaks. I do think breaks are important. We all need to stop staring at the screen for a few minutes. But you can use that break time to return your phone calls, go out in your family to remind your family that you do love them. You just have to focus on this class right now. Get you some supper or whatever it is that you're doing this evening. So we do take breaks. And I think one thing you guys absolutely could do, is you can keep track of your own time. I'll keep track of your time, but you can keep track of your time as well. So if you log on late, if you log on 5 minutes late, then you need to deduct 5 minutes from your time. If you need to leave early, that's fine. If you come back late from break, we can deduct that from our time. So it all adds up. I think that's the point I'm really trying to make here. Don't let it add up and get away from you. There's so many times that students reach out to me and say, how much time have I missed? And I'll tell them, they're like, oh, wow, I didn't realize it was that much. So I'm encouraging you guys to keep up with your time as well, so you and I can compare records if need be. And quite frankly, you guys know if you're here or not, right? So you really don't need me to tell you how much time you've missed. You know if you've logged on this evening, you came on late, or you left early. So you may want to dedicate a page in your notebook that says, my time or something like that, so you can keep up with that so it doesn't get away from you. And as we said, regardless of the reason, the most you can miss is 15 hours. Guys, this isn't my rule. This isn't Lane's rule. This is the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. So there's absolutely nothing I can do about this. If you go over 15 hours, you are not eligible for the end of class exam. And I will talk about the end of class exam in just a second. Is everybody good with this? 15 hours? It's usually not a problem on day one. The problem is when you're at 14 hours and 30 minutes. That's when the problem comes up. But day one, we're all good. So we're going to spend I'm going to talk in just a minute about why we are here. And we're going to spend the next couple months talking about why we are here. But let's now talk about first why we are not here. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. I'm not here to teach you guys how to be a real estate agent. I'm not here to teach you how to work with buyers and sellers. I'm not here to teach you how to successfully do an open house. That's not my job. My job is to provide you with the laws and the rules, to build your foundation. This is the beginning of the career. Once you get out, once you get your license and you get out, then you're going to start working with buyers and sellers. You're going to get training from your firm. You're going to get more knowledge. Again, this is just the very beginning of it. So I want us to make sure that we're all on the same page today. I know you all may come with your own personal agenda, and I appreciate your personal agenda. But when we're here in class together, we're on the agenda of the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. My job is to prepare you for your state exam. I will talk about your state exam in just a second and what that means. But I want you guys to think in a way, there's two different worlds. There's the real world, and then there's pre-licensing world. I need you guys in pre-licensing world, because in order for you to get through that state exam, this is what we're doing, is solidifying those laws and rules, building that foundation, making sure that we have a basic understanding of, all this good stuff. Has anybody, and you can show me by show of hands, has anybody bought or sold a house personally? Have any homeowners on the call? You've bought or sold, you've been through the process. Keep them up for a second. Has anybody ever rented an apartment or rented a home? Have you ever been a tenant? See, I got lots of hands up right now. I want you guys to take you can put them down, thank you. I want you guys to take your personal experience and put it off to the side. Pretend that it doesn't exist. I can promise you your personal experience from buying or selling a house or renting an apartment is not going to be what you're tested on. And so many times we like to, try to attach something in class. Well, when my coworker's aunt's friend bought a home 20 years ago, this is what happened to them. We're not going to be tested on that. And this is what I mean by real world versus pre-licensing world. If you guys want to get through this class, if you guys want to get through these tests, I need you in pre-licensing world. Real world experience is not pre-licensing. So sometimes you guys want to share your experience and ask me if your agent did right or wrong. I'm not here to tell you if your agent did right or wrong. I'm not here to tell you what they could have done different. I'm here to prepare you guys for that exam to start that career so you can launch. I think basically what I'm trying to tell you guys is that I'm not giving you all the pieces of the puzzle. I'm going to start your puzzle in this class. We're going to get that started, but you still have more to learn. You still have other areas, and we'll talk obviously a lot more about this as we go. Again, just making sure that we all start off on the same page. I have another question for you guys. Where are my HGTV fans? Where are you? Look at all those hands. Turn it off. Turn it off. That stuff isn't going to help you pass this class. This stuff isn't real, you guys. Turn it off. I think it can get confusing sometimes. Y'all, I'm telling you guys, anybody personally know a real estate agent? Like, you could pick up the phone right now and call somebody that currently has a license. They're not going to help you during this test. They can tell you about real world, but they're not going to be able to tell you about pre-licensing world. Take your book to them and open a random page and ask them any question and see if they can get it right or not. This is what I mean by real world and pre-licensing world. So when we are here together, we're here in pre-licensing world, and that makes our focus for the state exam, which is what the commission says that we're supposed to be doing here together. we have a system. We're going to talk about a system. I'm going to tell you how this class was built. I'm not just making this stuff up as I go. And I ask you guys to trust the system. You know, this may or may not be your first time through pre-licensing, but I promise you it's not mine. So trust the system, know we're working through what we need, what you need to get through that exam. I think sometimes we like to approach this class, why do I need to know this? Why do I care? Why is this important to me? It's all about the exams. It's all about the exams. We'll look again in just a second. I have the syllabus available for you guys. The Real Estate Commission has provided a syllabus, and the Real Estate Commission says that if we cover the material in the syllabus, we have covered everything that you could see on your state exam. And I'm here to tell you guys that I wrote this class with the syllabus in my hand. So when I introduce you to the syllabus in just a second, you'll have everything you need right there. And that's what we're going to work through in class together. So again, please trust the system. Questions or comments so far? $1 million listing. Y'all kill me with your HGTV. All right, so I imagine a lot of you are the little girl on the left right now. This is nice. This is great. This is where we want to be. Before we're done, before we get there, you very well may look like the little girl on the right. Part of the process. And I don't want any of you crying. And all you got to cry before you're going to call me before you cry, right? So, but it's a process, you guys. This is a tough class. These exams, they're tough exams. I'm trying to be very transparent and very open with you guys on day one. I'm not going to stand here and say, oh, it's easy, you don't have to do anything. No, this is a tough class. These are tough exams. And I need you guys to commit. I need you guys to get on board today. Can we all agree that this starts today? Don't say, well, I'll start studying in February, or my test is March 2nd, so I'm going to start studying on March 1st. No, let's all agree that we're going to start today. We're going to commit today. The first couple weeks of class aren't as heavily tested. So I like the first couple weeks of class because they can warm us up, they can get us started, they can form good study habits, right? It gets us into, when we get into more of the heavily tested material, you know, after the third or fourth week or so. So, and I know I can speak for myself, and feel free to raise your hand if you want to, you don't have to. But for me, guys, it's been a minute since I sat in a classroom. It's been a minute since I took an exam. Anybody else silently feeling my pain here? You know, those of you that maybe just graduated high school or college last year, you have an advantage over the rest of us because you have already formed those study habits. So for those of us that hasn't, forming those study habits is something I want you guys to do early. So when we do get into the trickier stuff, the heavily tested stuff, you have a system going and you're prepared. I've mentioned tests a couple times, so let's address these. There are 2 exams that stand between you and your real estate license. 2 exams that stand between you and your license. The first exam is our end of class exam. So the last thing we'll do on the last day of class is take a test together. I will talk more about that in just a second. To pass the end of class exam, you need to make a 75% at least. You get 4 hours. There is math in this class. Some of you, I know I just said a bad 4-letter word, didn't I? There's math in this class. I need you guys to start a shopping list. And number 1 on your shopping list is a calculator. I need you guys to go calculator shopping. I need you to get a basic calculator. I cannot let you use the calculator on your phone. Why? Because your phone has Google. So we want a basic calculator. I also cannot let you use a calculator that stores formulas. So like one of the, y'all remember those TI 82s that we had in high school? Yeah, I can't let you use that because it stores formulas. And it doesn't matter that you don't know how to store it. The calculator can store formulas. So please go calculator shop. You guys see basic, it's a 10 key, add, subtract, multiply, divide, and percent. Those are all the keys we're messing with. When you're calculator shopping, if you're not sure if your calculator's acceptable or not, feel free to shoot me a message. Julie, will this calculator work? But I want you guys to get this calculator now. So when we start doing math, like next week, we start math pretty soon. And when we start doing math, you guys are using your calculator so you can learn how to use it to get ready for your test. All calculators have different kinks and quirks. So get it now, start using it now so you have it for your test. Any questions on, mine's just a little, what is that, Casio? I think it was like $6.99 at Walgreens, something like that. Amazon will have you one here by Friday. So get you a calculator. Questions on this piece of it? We'll do a little introduction to math. I don't know if we'll get to it tomorrow or not, but yeah, next week we'll definitely start on the math. For those of you that think math is a 4-letter word that I shouldn't say in public out loud, guys, please always remember, this is not a math test. This is a real estate test with some math in it. You only, of the 112 questions, only 10 questions are math. So the math alone can't fail you. We're not heavily tested on math. However, if we can get some of the math, then that will give you a few extra points on your exams. So I offer you guys plenty of practice as we go through it. The other thing for our end of class exam is that if you don't make a 75%, but you at least make a 50%. So you don't make the 75, but you at least make a 50%, you are eligible for the retake. You get a second shot. We do have your retake scheduled. I will share that date with you in just 1 second. I'd like you guys to pencil it in case you need it. Maybe you'll need it, maybe you won't. But I'd like you to go ahead and pencil it in so you have it. So this is one hurdle, our end of class exam. Once you get out of this class, then you go take the Real Estate Commission state exam. This is offered at a testing center, and I will talk more about that later. There are 2 sections of the commission state exam. There's a national section, which includes topics all states see, all real estate agents, no matter where you are in the country. And then we have a state specific section, which are just things that are geared towards North Carolina, things that we do specifically that maybe they don't do in other states. Again, I'll show you in just a minute how you can identify a national section versus a state section. We'll talk more about this, but I need you guys to focus. We are in North Carolina, and some of you may have real estate experience in another state. Guys, I have no idea what Maine's laws and rules are. I have no idea how Florida does real estate. And guess what? Quite frankly, I don't care. Who do I care about? I care about our great state of North Carolina. So we're going to stay here, focus on North Carolina. All right, Julie, I hear you. 2 tests, blah, blah, blah. So tell me, how is it that I become a real estate agent? How do I get my license? Well, first, you got to get your certificate of completion from Lane. How do you get your certificate of completion from Lane? You meet my attendance requirements. What's the most you can miss? I can see your mouths move. What's the most you can miss? 15 hours. Yep. You got to pass my end of class exam. And then we also have a midterm exam that we are going to discuss more about when we get about halfway through. We do require you to attempt it. You don't have to pass the midterm exam, but it's a great opportunity for you to see where you are, like right here, right now. Like if I was sitting down and taking Julie's test, would I get the certificate of completion? So we're going to talk more about the midterm. It's only required that you guys attempt it, that you take it, but I'm going to encourage you to take it seriously. I'm going to encourage you to pretend like it's a real test, like this is the real deal. Once you get your certificate of completion from Lane, then you go to the testing center, take your state exam, and poof, you have your real estate license. So it's a two-step process. Do I have any questions on this? And this is what we're spending all our time together talking about, by the way. If you can't be tested on it, we're not talking about it. That's our focus. So you guys can go to Google and search free licensing in North Carolina, and you can find all sorts of information out there. Y'all know how Google works, right? I don't know if what you're finding out there on Google is good or not. So before you go out, try to seek other information. We always encourage you to start with the tools that you've been given. First off, we want you to be present. I understand perfect class attendance might be a stretch, but we know our attendance requirements. You guys take that as you will. I need you guys to be here. And by here, I don't just mean sitting physically in front of the camera. I need you here focusing, taking notes, asking questions, typing in the chat, responding in the chat, participating as a class when that opportunity comes up. You guys have your textbook, which is a good resource. We will work through this together. If you have not received your textbook yet, and you've not been in contact with Lane about how to get one, please reach out to her tomorrow morning. Let's not bother Lane tonight at 8:30. But if you haven't been in contact with Lane about getting a book, please reach out to her to get one so she can, work with you to get a book in your hand as soon as we can. When she sent you your welcome email, I believe she asked you guys to read the first 3 units of the book. Who got a chance to read those first 3 units? Good. Lots of hands. If you finish 3, go on to 4. Finish 4, go on to 5. We keep going. Like I said, we're eventually going to cover it. If you haven't had a chance to do the first 3 units, that's okay. You can get yourself caught up. You'll want to do that this weekend for sure. I always let you guys know what we're going to cover the next class. I'm going to encourage you guys to look ahead. I think this information is easier to absorb and wrap your brains around the more times you can expose yourself to it. So you look at it before we come to class, and then we have a class and we have a discussion about it, and then you go study it again or take your quizzes after class. That's 3 times you touch that unit. You're going to have a better time understanding the material. Like I said, some of this stuff gets heavy. Some of this stuff gets, so many people like the word tricky. I don't like the word tricky, but it's a lot of information, you guys. It's a lot of information, and the test is geared around making sure that you really, really know it. So we're going to utilize our textbook. We also have an online learning system that was in the email you guys got from Lane. We'll look at that in just a second. And then I encourage you guys to make your own flashcards, outlines, take your own notes, whatever. There's something to be said for the repetition of writing. So if you write something 50 times, you're probably better able to remember it. When it comes to flashcards, please don't try to make a flashcard for every single word in your book, all the vocabulary in your book. You will have more flashcards than what you know what to do with. We're coming into a new industry, so we're learning a new language and we're learning a lot of new words. I think the flashcards you should be making are those words or concepts that you're having a hard time wrapping your brain around. Does this make sense? So if you leave class and you say, I don't know what Julie was talking about, that may be a good candidate for flashcards, instead of just trying to make a flashcard out of a word or make a flashcard for the sake of making a flashcard. I've had students tell me before that they get overwhelmed by their flashcards, the number of flashcards, and that's not what I want. I want it to be a good learning tool for you guys. And in order for it to be a good learning tool, it needs to be things that you want to remember or having a harder time remembering. Remember when we started, I recorded, and I said, I'll tell you guys in just a minute why I record. My homework to myself this evening, I even give myself homework. So my homework to myself, before we meet tomorrow night, I'm going to create our very own YouTube channel. Isn't that kind of fun? We're going to have our own YouTube channel. And I'm going to record all of our classes. And I'm going to put all of our classes in our YouTube channel. So when we come together tomorrow, I'll have the link. I'll share the link with you guys for our YouTube channel. And you can bookmark it or subscribe to it. So that way, if there is a topic that you aren't sure about, you have the ability to go back and hear it again. If you have to miss a class, you have the ability to go back and get caught up. If you have to leave 30 minutes early, you have the ability, you still have the material. So again, tomorrow, I'll share our YouTube channel link. So you guys will have that as another tool as well. Again, please just be cautious on Google, because you really could find all sorts of, and whatever you want to out there, right? I mean, we know how Google is. You could find it, but that doesn't mean that it's accurate. That doesn't mean that it's correct. So before you if you feel the need to find additional information, I encourage you to reach out to Lane and I first and see if we can't offer you something that we have vetted, that we have looked at and we feel good about, as opposed to you finding whatever. Does that make sense? I'd hate for you guys to spend all that time studying the wrong stuff. Sometimes I fear you guys spending your study time looking for things to study. So I'm giving you a good start here. I'm giving you the book. I'm giving you our YouTube channel. I'm giving you the online learning system that we'll look at. If and when you want more, just come to us. Let us try to help you first. Is that fair? Thumbs ups. Thumbs ups. Cool. Probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I can offer you guys is just to listen. Just to listen. I have PowerPoints, and as a matter of fact, I make my PowerPoints available to you. It's hard to try to write down every single word of the PowerPoint and listen to me at the same time. So remember, we're recording. So everything I say, everything you see on your screen right now, you have the availability you have. And I'll also have my PowerPoints available for you guys. Try to encourage you. I want you to take notes during class, but it's notes. It's not write. If you're trying to write every single word of the PowerPoint, I promise you, by the time I'm done, your hand's going to be cramping. So I know we think we're all good multitaskers, and the truth is we're not. The truth is, when it comes to trying to multitask, that means not one thing is getting your full attention. So how can we keep the attention in this class? Well, we've eliminated distractions already. We turned the TV off and put our phone upside down. So we've taken care of that. But also trying to focus and listen on the conversations we're having in class, instead of feeling the need to jot down every single word. We mentioned outside study time. This class does require outside study time. As I said, guys, a lot of this stuff, you can't just hear it once and be able to test on it. This isn't a one and done kind of thing. Some of this information, once we really get going, you need to hear and see and read over and over and over again to help it click. They say, I'm not really sure who they are, but they say for every hour we spend in class, you guys should be studying 2 to 3 hours outside of class. So let's break this down. Once we get into our normal week, next week, we're only 2 days this week, but next week we start 3 days a week, 3 hours of class. So we are together 9 hours a week. That's our class time, 9 hours a week. They say you guys should be studying 18 to 27 hours outside of class. I just gave y'all a part-time job, didn't I? Just like that. So you got to find the balance. You got to find your balance. I know we have family and friends and work and that favorite show that we're watching on Netflix right now. I'm not telling you don't spend any time with your family the next 2 months, or don't watch anything on Netflix. You guys have got to find your balance. Maybe instead of binging the whole season, you just watch 1 or 2 episodes and then you come study, instead of whatever, instead of, spending every night with your family and friends, you have one that you walk away. And how you study, how you make that commitment to yourself. I really encourage you guys to put your study time in your calendar. Make it an appointment to yourself. Make it a commitment to yourself. So if you have your study time is Saturday from 9 to 11, that's an appointment to yourself that you want to keep. That's a commitment that you want to make sure that you honor and keep. So schedule that time, allot that time, and keep that time. Do that for yourself and find the balance. Welcome to real estate. I always say real estate's one of those careers that if I allowed myself, I could work 24/7. But guess what? I really don't want to work 24/7. So how is it that I do what I need to do in real estate and family and friends and Netflix and everything else? We find that balance. So schedule time. We don't have specific homework assignments in this class. Your homework, every single class, is to look ahead at what we're going to cover before class. And then after class, review what we've covered. What did we talk about? What was your aha moment? What words are you not sure of? What concepts do you need to go back and review and hear again? So this is your homework for the next couple months. Look ahead at where we're going. I'll show you our schedule in just a second. Look ahead at where we're going and review where we've been. Take the quizzes, get the key terms. Outside of this, I do have one homework assignment. I'm going to give it to you guys today. Why not, right? So one thing I would like you guys to do, don't do it now, please. I would consider that a distraction. I would like an introduction from you guys at some point with yourself, a selfie with your textbook. The commission wants me to verify, that you have the current textbook. So what a fun way to prove to me that you have the current textbook than to send me a selfie, you and your book, but also an introduction to yourself. Why are you here? Why do you want to be in real estate? What do you hope to get from this class? And always, what can I do to help you? For those of you that went, uh-oh, I should have wrote down her number and email when she told me to the first time, I got you. This is not my first rodeo. So if you didn't get it the first time, so let me ask you guys this by show of hands. How many of you are here to do residential sales? You want to help buyers and sellers. You want to help buyers buy and sellers sell. Probably most of us. Anybody going into property management? Anybody going to go? Look at those hands go down so fast. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. You don't have to do property management. Few hands, property management. What about commercial? Anybody thinking going into commercial real estate? Maybe, yeah. So guys, there's lots of, as I said, there's lots of different avenues. What you do, where you go once you get your license, that's going to require further training. That's going to require further education. Right now, though, we're all in the same boat of getting our license. So where you're going after this, you got to do this first. And is anybody here, and you don't have to tell me, but I'm always curious because usually I get somebody that's here just for the knowledge. You've bought and sold enough homes in your life and you're just curious how this works. What's the process? So, again, we all come with different agendas. We all come with different goals, but we need to make sure. So you're going to send me your text or your email with your selfie and introduction. Why don't you guys pull your chats up? Let's have a little fun for a second. Why don't you pull your chats up, chat boxes, and you should have 2 options. You should be only able to chat to everyone or just chat to me. Does that look right? Is that what you guys see on your end? Perfect. So why don't you tell everyone, let's tell everyone where you are, what city Are you in right now, or state? Are you in right now taking this class? And this is a lot of fun to watch. I got Greensboro, Charlotte, Lexington, Winston, Rural Hall, Raleigh, Boonville, Franklin, Lexington, Harrisburg, Winston, Morganton, Germantown, China Grove, Florida. There we go. I knew I had somebody out of state. I got a Florida. Is that another Germantown? Do I have two people from Germantown in this class? Do you guys know each other? Winston, Wake Forest. So we're scattered all across the state. We are scattered all across the state. That's one big thing that Zoom has allowed us to do. It's allowed us to expand our bubble and take us out of the triad a little bit. And that's the kind of thing I like hearing about from you guys when you send me your introductions. Any questions on this? Again, please don't do it now. If I look at my phone right now, I'm not going to see this from anybody, am I? Okay, good. So do it after class or tomorrow or this weekend or whenever it's convenient for you. Even if I already know you, please still send me your introduction. New class, new. I encourage you guys in this class to ask the right questions. Guys, just because you have a thought hit your brain doesn't mean you should unmute yourself and share it with everybody. Stop and ask yourself, is this what we're talking about? Is this the focus? Is this pre-licensing world or the real world? Because once you start sharing your past experience, you've not only confused yourself, but you've confused your peers as well. So we want to make sure we stay on the right track. And that's my job, is to keep us on the right track, not let us derail and go down this rabbit hole of stories and war stories of buying and selling houses. So I do reserve the right to keep us on the right track. Please don't be offended if I say that's not what we're talking about. That can you right now, can you get with me after class? I'm really not trying to be mean. I'm just keeping our main goal. We have one thing in this class to focus on and one thing to concentrate on, and that's preparing you for the state exam. So if I feel that we're getting off topic and we're getting off of that one goal, I absolutely are going to get us back on track to make sure we get all the material covered that the commission says you may be tested on. And I know you guys come here today with big goals. Some of you want to be top producers. Some of you want to sell 40 houses your second year. I think all of that is great. But I'm really encouraging you not to put your cart in front of your horse. Please focus on this first, get through this piece of it, and then you can go out and start building that career to be that top producer. But keep that goal in mind. But don't let it rule. We've got to get through this first before you can go focus on that goal. Is that fair? Does everybody good with that? I don't make the rules. It is what it is. So the world of real estate really is a true adventure. And I guess my question to you guys is, are you ready? Are we ready to do this? Yay! We got to do something to pump this night class up. I'm going to have you guys drinking Red Bull on your way home from work before it's over with. No, I'm just kidding. I do have one more thing to say as kind of a side note, because I've taught night classes before, and this comes from past experience. I'm going to ask that you refrain from your after dinner cocktail until after class. This is a professional class for professional license, and I intend to keep it that way. Again, ask yourself, would you take a 6-pack into a live classroom environment? And I'm guessing the answer to that is going to be no. So please don't be another story in my next pre-licensing class. And just, again, can we all agree? Julie, we're not going to drink during class. Okay, thank you. Question comes in, if we need to step away to the restroom outside of break, do you just send me a chat? Yes, thank you so much for that question. If you need to leave your camera, maybe you need to run to the restroom, maybe you need to answer your door, whatever, just shoot me a quick, BRB. I know what that means. And then when you come back, of course, let me know. Hopefully the way we're designed, we won't have you guys, because we're pretty much 50-minute instruction, 10-minute break. So hopefully we don't have much going on in between. What other questions do I have? Comments, concerns? Haven't scared anybody yet, have I? It's a tough test, you guys. These are tough tests. Ask your agent buddies. For those of you that know people, ask them. If they tell you it's easy, they've lied to you. Another way to put that. So we mentioned earlier, I know a lot of us admitted, and I appreciate you guys raising your hands. A lot of us admitted that it's been a minute since we've been in a classroom. And I said earlier that my job is to give you the information you need to get through the state exam. And while that is my job, I sometimes feel that my job is twofold. Not only am I giving you the information you need for your state exam, but I'm also helping you guys interpret and dissect some of these test questions. Some of them are going to get tricky. Some of them are going to get complicated. So we're going to spend some time, actually, when we come together tomorrow night, we're going to look at some test questions together and start learning about how we can read them and dissect them a little bit. But one thing I want you guys to start paying attention to now in your studies, in your readings, in your test questions, your practice questions, are what's known as absolute words. And when you see these in a test question, these words mean something. Shake your head, yes or no. Is there any exception to must or always? I mean, think about how strong some of these words are. If I say this is always going to be the case, is there going to be an exception to that? Well, except this. So these absolute words are just that. They're absolute. And I think if you see them in a test question, a practice question, it's going to be something for you to take note of and pay attention to. When we come back from our first break, we're going to take a break in just a minute. When we come back, we're going to look at a few things together in your book, again, to help prepare you for interpreting and dissecting some of these test questions. Another thing I want to say before break, I mentioned earlier, I briefly introduced you guys to the North Carolina Real Estate Commission. And yes, they provide this pre-licensing class and a couple other things that we'll talk about, laws, rules, that kind of thing. But I think it's important that we start tonight understanding the commission's main purpose. They're not here to help you be a successful agent. They're not here to help you make lots and lots of money. They're not here to help you get buyer and seller leads. What is their main purpose? Their main purpose is to protect the public when they're working with us. They're here to protect the public. And that's why they provide us with this pre-licensing class, with this foundation, with this understanding of the laws and the rules. They offer other education. For example, once you guys get your license, you will have post-licensing. Once you get your license, you're required to do 3 30-hour post-licensing classes. I will talk more about that later. The commission also provides us with continuing education. Once you're licensed, you have to do 8 hours of CE each year. And again, we will talk about this as well. This is just what the commission requires. Your firm, whatever firm you affiliate with, will provide training, hopefully provide training, they'll provide education. You'll have various boards that you can choose to join, and part of the things that you get from that board or this board is other education, other training. Hear me when I say, this is the start of your training. This is the start of your education. It's not like you get your license, then you're never going to learn anything else. It all begins here. I mentioned earlier, I've been at this for 22 years, coming on 23 years. I've known a lot of top producers in my years. And I've noticed two traits that top producers have. First off, they're always feeding that pipeline. They're always out there prospecting, trying to meet new buyers, new sellers. They keep that pipeline flowing. The second thing I've noticed about my top producers, they're always learning. They're out there embracing the new tools, the new technology. This never ends in a successful real estate career. So the commission helps gets us started with pre and post. They provide valuable information in CE. And then hopefully your firm and other membership boards, you're taking advantage of the training throughout your entire career that you can. So welcome, day one, right? Good times. So we are going to take our first break. Now, let's talk about that for a second. I do have a countdown clock, a timer, so there's no confusion about how long a 10-minute break is. So we're going to turn our cameras off. We're going to take 10 minutes. At the end of 10 minutes, we're going to come back, turn our cameras back on, and I will take attendance. It's called screenshot for attendance. So I'll take attendance to make sure that you're here. So let's take 10, and I will see you guys in just a few. See, I got an alarm and everything. So if you're not paying attention to the clock, hopefully you can hear it. Warning, I do agitate some of your dogs with my alarm. So I'm just going to apologize in advance, but I think it's important that we stay on track and come back on time. So welcome back. So we're coming back from break, and the first thing we're going to do is turn our cameras on and make sure I can see you. Remember, it's twofold. Just because your camera's on doesn't mean I can verify that you are here. If for some reason you are late coming back from break, I'm getting ready to do in just a second, I'm getting ready to do a screenshot for attendance, which means I'm going to take attendance by taking a screenshot. And when I go back later, if I don't see you in front of your camera, I don't know that you're here. So if you come back late from break, I need you to tell me in a private chat. And that way, I may not have you in my screenshot for attendance, but I know you came back 10 minutes late, as opposed to you not telling me in a private chat, and I have to count you absent for that whole hour. So if for some reason you know, things come up, I get it. So if for some reason during a break, you need more than this 10 minutes, you've got to communicate with me and tell me in the chat that you're back so I can give you credit for being here. Is everybody good with that? If you're not sure if you've missed a screenshot, it's okay to tell me. When in doubt, tell me that you're here. And then that way I make sure I can give you credit for being here. Look, Jimmy's like, yeah, I'm here. So, you know, good, I like it. So I am going to take my screenshot for attendance right now. You may see a flash on your end. I don't know if you will or not, but everybody smile, say cheese. I had a photographer tell us once that when he takes pictures, he has everybody say money, because it's impossible to say money without smiling. Let's try it. Money. See how that's a lovely smile, isn't it? So whatever you need, help getting you guys ready for those profile pictures one day as well. So thank you guys for coming back on time. Thank you for being here. What I would like to do now, before we really get started, I want to just go through a couple things in this email that you guys got from Wayne. Now, I know you have this email, because if you didn't, then you wouldn't have the Zoom link that you need to access class tonight. But there's some other good stuff in here as well. First off, the Zoom link, which is actually down here. Let's skip ahead just a bit. The Zoom link right here, this is the same link we're going to use to access class every single day. Every single time we meet, then we are going to use this link. I encourage you guys to create a folder and put this email in the folder so you always know where to find it. If your email looks anything like mine, it gets pushed down to the bottom, and then eventually it goes to the next page. And by the end of February, it's like on the third page. And now you're late for class because you couldn't find the email. So why don't you guys go ahead and set up a folder so you have that. Excuse me, just one, let's see. So we're setting up a folder to make sure that we have this email and we can access it. Guys, I mentioned earlier, I think before we officially started, I'll log on about 5:15 each class, give us about 10-15 minutes before we start. You guys don't have to turn your camera on until 5:30. But if you do want to log on at 5:15, go ahead and do so. That way, if your laptop needs to do an update, or if your Zoom needs to do an update, you're on a few minutes early. Guys, if you're having problems logging on and class has already started or about to start, please do not contact me. I'm not going to stop class to step aside to take your phone call. As a matter of fact, I don't stop class to take anybody's call or text. So if you're having technical issues, if you can't get on, I mentioned earlier we have a quote unquote IT person. This is in the email. Jane's contact information, she's got an email. You guys also know how to get a hold of Wayne. So if it's class time and you're not able to log on for whatever reason, I can't help you. Please reach out to Jane or Lane, and that's Jane's contact information in this email. So now let's go to the top because we're skipping around now. So let's see, here's your registration and your contract. Lane asks that you guys sign this. If you haven't done this yet, clicked on these links and done that, please do so, not now. I would consider that a distraction, but please do so tomorrow so Lane can process your information. Another good thing that we have in this email, we mentioned earlier our online learning support system. This is new to Carolina School of Real Estate. So if you've taken a class with Carolina School of Real Estate in the past, then you need to recreate this account. This is a new account. Everybody hear me? So if you already have an old account, you need to create this new account. You click on this link to access the online learning system each time. We'll look at that in just a second. But Jane is also giving you guys a little tutorial. I think it's like a little 4-minute video on how you can create this account. So I asked earlier how many of you created, and I was blown away by the hands that went up. So if you haven't created your account for your online learning system, please do so again, not tonight, not while we're in class, but soon, because there's good stuff in there. Problems with the online learning system or Zoom or anything, you can reach out to Jane. So we have her email address in here as well. Syllabus, we'll look at that in just a second. One thing I want to point out, you guys cannot access this class using a smartphone. I need you on a laptop, on a desktop, possibly an iPad or a tablet or something, but it's going to be awfully hard to see everything on the screen on this little thing right here. So we ask that you not access on phones, use your desktop or your laptop or your tablet. Your end of class exam with us is in a program called Class Marker. And we have a tutorial here for you guys on what Class Marker looks like. So you can go ahead and see, know what to expect, watch the little video, kind of take that guesswork away before test day. I also mentioned the midterm, and the midterm exam is also going to be on Class Marker. So that'll give you guys practice. Again, take away that guesswork for test day. You'll know what to expect. And then the last little piece in this email are all the dates and times we're going to meet. Here they are. This is when we are getting together, starting just Wednesday, Thursday this week, but next week we're Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I think you guys should put these dates and times in your calendars. As you're putting in your study time, put in class time as well, so it doesn't get away from you. So you do not forget about it. The last day of class is Thursday, March 2nd, and that is when our final exam is. That is our end of class exam. So that's what we're doing between now and then, is building up to that test. Keep this email. This is a good email with a lot of good stuff. Any questions on the information you guys got from Lane? The other thing I want to introduce you guys to is our online learning system. We're going to spend our time together in this class. We'll go through it in our time together. Just to point out a couple things. In this welcome section, we have the syllabus for you guys. So again, the Real Estate Commission says, if we cover everything in the syllabus, then we'll have covered what you need to know for your state exam. So, you know, some of you may want to print it out and use it as a guide. If not, you always have it here as a reference. Please don't ask me if we're going to talk about this or we're going to talk about that. If you want to know if we're going to talk about it, it's right here. Like I said, I wrote this class with the syllabus in my hand. So whether or not we're going to talk about it is to be covered on your state exam. I give you guys everything up front. You guys also got this booklet from Lane in the email when you first registered. This is the process of getting your real estate license. we're going to spend some time in this booklet about halfway through the class, because this booklet gives us, it tells us how to submit our application, how to schedule our state exam, walks us through the process. So again, we're going to spend some time with it, but we're not going to do it now. It's way too early to do anything with this now. So I usually schedule this about halfway through, and we'll look at this together. I do think you guys should start looking through this booklet now. As you're forming those study habits. I know a question I get very early is, what do I look at? What do I study? So put the real estate licensing booklet in your on your list. Not only will it walk you through the process, but there's also some stuff in here that you may be tested on. And one thing in particular that I just want to bring to your attention now, and it's down here on page. Some topics we're going to spend more time in than others. Remember I mentioned earlier, like the first couple weeks, they're not heavily tested topics. We're building up to the more heavily tested topics. How do I know what's a heavily tested topic? Because the Real Estate Commission told us. So for example, here's 4 topics right here where you have a grand total of 3 questions. I would not consider that a heavily tested topic. So some of these topics we're going to mention, and then we're going to move on. If you come down here a little bit, brokerage relationships, that's basically agency. Now you can expect to see 22 questions on agency. I would consider that a heavily tested topic. So again, I ask you to trust the system. There's a reason why I'm spending 30 minutes in one unit and 9 hours in another. Okay. And where a lot of this class, this time is dedicated to make sure that we cover the material in the proper depth. And I just like to show you guys that I'm not making this stuff up on the fly. The commission says spend this amount of time, spend this amount in depth. Again, it's all about preparing you guys for that state exam. So this is the real estate licensing in North Carolina. There's good stuff in here, not only on the process, but also once you get your license. It'll talk about that post-licensing and that CE. All the forms, we're not going to look at all these forms. That would just be cruel, but you have access to all of them. If we'll mention some of these. They're here. They're just available to you. Some of these, a couple of them we'll get in pretty in depth. We'll look at that. And then you can see we have the different units. So unit 1, unit 2, unit 3. These are the units in the book. I don't go in order of the book. I go in order of the syllabus. The book is a supplement to the syllabus. So things look pretty normal at first, right? 1 through 6, and then 20, 7, 8, and then it starts getting 14, 15, 21, 17, 13, right? Why are we skipping around all over the place? Because we follow the syllabus. We use the textbook as a supplement to the syllabus. So I got a tentative schedule for you guys. I'll show you in just a second. But for those of you, hopefully all of you that are looking ahead, if you want to know what are we going to cover next, don't just open the book and go and order the book. Reference this to make sure that you're looking ahead at what we're going to talk about next. And the last thing I want to point out here for now, we have our very own folder. You guys see Campbell down here? This is ours. This is our folder. So a couple things I have in here for you guys. First off, you're my night class. So you want to make sure we're looking at the night tentative schedule. And what I've given us is kind of a roadmap. So you have an idea about what we're going to cover when. You have an idea of what order we're going to go in the book. So you know what you're looking ahead at. We talked about the retake earlier. Please make note, your retake, if you're eligible, if you need it, is scheduled for Monday, March 6th. So please make a note of that now. Go ahead and pencil it in your calendar. Maybe you need it, maybe you don't. If you need it, I want you to be available that day. Our final exam is the last day of class. So that would be March 2nd. So March 6th is our retake. And the other thing I want to point out to you guys right now, we have 2 cram courses scheduled for you guys, February 25th and March 4th. Now I'm going to talk about this obviously as we get closer. It's too early to talk about it now. So yeah, your exam's on the 2nd. So if you're eligible for the retake, you may want to consider the 4th. There we go. But you guys will definitely want to come to the 25th to prepare you for that exam on the 2nd. This is an all day. Annie is another instructor here at Carolina School of Real Estate. This is not included in class time. This is above and beyond class time. So you can't, you're not going to have have hours taken away from you if you don't attend this. You can't use this to make up time. This is additional kind of above and beyond. Yes. So again, just go ahead and put these dates in so you'll have them. But you guys are definitely going to want to do I would encourage you guys to try specifically to do the 25th, because that'll get you ready for your exam on the 2nd. And you're welcome to come to the 4th if you're looking to retake or if you are getting ready for that state exam. So we're the night class tentative schedule. And then the other thing I have in our folder, our Campbell folder right now, are all of my PowerPoints for the first 6 units and then unit 20. So again, you guys, I don't want you to feel like you have to write down every single word. Your hand will cramp up if you start writing down every single word. So please use this time in class to focus on the conversation, on what we're saying, knowing that you have every single word available to you. And also always remember that we're recording. So if you need to go back and hear something or see something, everything I say, you guys, everything I say. Ooh, I got to be careful now, don't I? No pressure, right? But you guys have that available. Again, I'll give you that YouTube channel link tomorrow when we come together. Feel free to explore around Learn, Test, Pass. Today we're in Unit 1. We'll go through Unit 1. We'll start on Unit 2, but that doesn't mean if you don't want to, you can't click on Unit 10 to see what that's about, right? Feel free to explore around. Again, what we're trying to do these first couple weeks is help you develop those study habits. So when we do get to the more heavily tested units, such as agency, you're already prepared and you're ready to go. Any questions on our online learning system? Again, if you haven't gotten in here yet, please do so as soon as you can, but not now because we're in class and I would consider that a distraction. You see how that kind of works? Can you hear me now, Tessa? Cool. Good old-fashioned restart. That's So let's take just a minute, a couple things in your book. Let's kind of start in the back. Let's start in the back. Please turn with me in the back of your book, textbook. Let's look first at page 831. 831. As I mentioned earlier, you guys are coming into a new industry. You're coming into a new language. You're going to learn new words, new vocabulary. If we come across something in class that you don't know what it means, look it up. This is what the glossary is here for you. 101 says you have to know what the word means. You're not going to be able to apply it in the exam. You're not going to be able to apply it in the real world if you don't know what it means. So utilize the glossary, look things up. Each unit has an end of unit quiz. We will look at that in just a second. But if you will flip for now with me to page 861. 861 gives you the answer key, so you can grade yourself. You can see once you take an end of unit quiz, you can see if you got it right or wrong. If you got it wrong, figure out why, look it up. Do you guys see the numbers in parentheses? So like number 1, C, and then in parentheses it says 2. That 2 is telling you what page this information is located. So if you get it wrong, you can go to page 2 and look it up. This is how we learn, you guys. I need you to work the kinks out now so we're ready for test day. So I encourage you to take tests. I encourage you, this is how we learn, is by looking up these wrong answers. On page 879, we have an index. So the first thing I saw in the second column there was appraisal. Everything you wanted to know about appraisals, it tells you where you can find it. Now we got a whole unit dedicated to appraisals. We're going to talk about the appraisal process in unit 17. But if you want to know where all you in your book you can find something about appraisals, so you can get those questions right, that index can help. Let's go back just a little bit to page 771. 771. If you're rusty in math, or if math isn't your thing, you may want to consider just briefly going through this math section. 773 gives you a little introduction to calculators. There's measurement on 775, fractions, decimals, and percentages on 781. So if you feel like it's been a while since you've done math, or if math isn't your thing, or you really don't like the fact that we have to do math, I encourage you to just look through this section. I don't think you should spend all your study time on it, but just look through it to help yourself get warmed up. Again, we'll start math. We're not going to get to it tomorrow night, but we'll start math on Tuesday. So we don't waste any time. So you have from now until Tuesday to get a calculator. That's not too bad. You can go calculator shopping this weekend. So let's go back and look at a few things within the unit. So go to page 1. Starts at the very beginning. Every single unit has a list of key terms. You guys see the key terms on page 1? Again, you guys, 101 says, do you know what the word means? Once we leave class, once we finish discussing this unit in class, go through those key terms. Do you know what this means? Do you know what that means? If you don't, look it up. Make a flashcard if you just can't wrap your brain around it. So just knowing what the word means is a huge help. It's a huge step in the right direction. Also, on page 15, all units end with a key point review. So let's use this as a good summary, as a good checklist. Do not use this as a supplement for the unit, but use it, again, use it as a checklist. I know what this means. I know what that means. I don't know what this means. That's what I need to go look up or make a flashcard out of. And then, as we mentioned on page 17, all end of units end with a unit quiz. Now, I'm all about you guys writing in your books and making notes and highlights and dog-earing and whatever you need to do. I do recommend, though, that when you're taking these end of unit quizzes, you answer it on a blank piece of paper. Because as soon as you circle number 1 as C, you can never go back and take this test again. So if you do this on a blank piece of paper, these are tests you can go back and take again and again. Does that make sense? By the way, I just gave you the answer. So don't say I never give you the answers to the test. There you go. Number 1 is C, right? So use this, like I said, write it on a separate piece of paper, and then you can grade yourself in the back. When we come together tomorrow night, we're going to dissect and interpret some questions from Unit 1. So I want to help start getting you guys learning how to read these questions and go through them. So tomorrow night, when we come together, we're going to look at some of these questions in Unit 1. If you get a chance between now and tomorrow night, I know a lot of you work tomorrow. So if you haven't done the Unit 1 quiz yet, and you get the chance, please try to do so. And then we'll start trying to dissect some of these.
I do have a question.
Yes. Hi, who am I talking to? Oh, wait.
Nicola.
Hey, Nicola. Nicola, hey.
Hey, where is the quiz? Is it going to be on the CSRE license thing?
So there's also, thank you, good question. Within each unit in our online learning system, we also have quizzes here as well. And what I really like about the online learning system, which of the following best defines, and I'm not really looking, I'm just going to answer just to show us. Not only does it tell you that this answer is right or wrong, but it tells you why. And to me, this is the valuable piece of the online learning system, is the explanation. Does that make sense? Because if you get it right, okay, well, if you guessed it, that's not going to help you. But if you got it wrong, we definitely want to make sure that you understand what went wrong. So yeah, you got the book with reference to the page numbers, plus you got the online learning system with the explanations here. So again, it's you guys, it's about finding your system and what works for you. You know, is it better to look ahead at the unit? My recommendation, but you guys find your own system. But consider looking ahead at the unit, coming to class and having a conversation about it, and then going and taking the quiz, because that's going to help you identify, you know, your areas of weakness and what you may need to go back and study or review on the YouTube channel, in your book, whatever. So great tools. You know, again, guys, we're not, you know, you're not required to do the online learning system. It's just here as an aid. It's here to help you. I can't tell you how many times I get asked, do we have to do everything? Truth is, you don't have to do anything. But I'm telling you, those that go through the online learning system, they have these explanations, they have a better time. Did that answer, Nicola?
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we'll be spending time in the online learning system, just kind of introducing it to you tonight. We're getting ready to, actually, and I need to stop sharing just for 1 second. So you guys should all see your peers. You can wave at everybody again, say, hey, check in on everybody, see how we're doing. We are going to start on Unit 1 right now, actually. Unit 1, we're not going to get excited about Unit 1. Guys, if you're going to get a test question, it's not going to be from Unit 1. Unit 1 is kind of like the you got to warm up before you can run the marathon. So Unit 1 is our warm up. If there's anything worth testing in Unit 1, we're going to get more in depth of it into a future unit. So Unit 1 is a great opportunity to introduce you guys to the basics, the 101. It's a good opportunity for you guys to kind of get a feel for the flow of the class, how this is going to work, and get us ready for the things we need to talk about in Unit 2. So before we really jump into it, though, a couple other things about my PowerPoints that I just want to point out to you. You're going to notice when you start seeing my PowerPoints, it's going to have a color star on it. It's either going to have a red star, a yellow star, or a green star. And the stars in the PowerPoints are going to tell you the depth, how deep you need to go with this information. The Real Estate Commission in the syllabus uses level 1, level 2, level 3. I think green, yellow, and red stars are a lot prettier. So when you see a green star, the syllabus says this is a level 1 topic, which means we just need a basic understanding. We need to know what the word or the concept means. When we see a level 2 or a yellow star on the PowerPoint, that's more in depth. That's an application. Like, can you take this information and apply it into a situation? The deepest level is level 3, and this is the true analysis. Once we start getting into agency and stuff, we're going to see lots of red stars. But the suggestion is that you take this level 3 material and you explain it to your family or your friends. And if you can take this and explain it to them in a way that they understand it, you are good to go. If you try to explain agency to them and they say, I have no idea what you're talking about, go back to the book, go back to the YouTube channel, go back to the online learning system. So how deep, how far we need to go. You guys got that shopping list handy? You should have calculator written on your shopping list. I also suggest you write highlighters. Get a green highlighter, a yellow highlighter, and a pink or an orange, because I don't see many red highlighters, but get different highlighters. Another thing that we're going to see on my PowerPoints are page numbers. My PowerPoint directs you to where in the textbook you need to focus. So if we're talking about a level 1 on page 17, then you can highlight that green and know that you just need a basic understanding. So we're going to see stars on all of our PowerPoints. We're going to get some highlighters. Studying my PowerPoints alone isn't enough. My PowerPoints are meant to direct you to where in the book you need to study, where in the book that you need to focus. And that's where I think the highlighters can help direct you, point you in that direction. Another thing, a couple other things we're going to see. I may have an arrow pointing to something with a problem topic. These are things that the Real Estate Commission has told us, the instructors, that students that have tested consistently have problems with. So I'm telling you what people across the state have struggled with. So what does that mean to you? Ignore it and move on? No, this is something you may want to bring to your attention, something you may want to flag, knowing that previous test takers have had problems with it. And then the other thing we may see on my PowerPoint is our state flag, and that helps us identify state-specific stuff. Remember, we said your state exam is 2 sections. There's a national section and a state section. So when we see the state flag, we know that's a candidate for the state-specific section. The other thing I want to point out to you guys, just open a random page in your book. Just flip it open. Go to page 143, random page. As you guys are 143, as you guys are learning your books and spending more time with them, do you see in the left-hand margin on page 143 near the bottom, it says in North Carolina? You guys see that? That's directing you to a state-specific topic. So how do you know what you may see on your state exam? The state section of your exam, there it is. VIP, again, is a learning to use something that's important. Your book is a good resource. It has good pictures and graphs, things to really help us better understand this material. Do I have any questions before we get started? I swear this night class, this first night goes by so fast. For me, it does anyway. I guess can't speak for you guys, but for me, it does. So how's everybody doing? Can I get some thumbs ups or some head bobs or something? Something. Okay. Again, a couple of you, it looks like your cameras have adjusted and I can't see you. So please make sure I can. You guys, some of you have lovely ceilings, but I don't want to look at your ceiling. I want to look at you. If you want to get credit for being here, it's pretty simple. Yeah, I think so. Okay, so we're going to get into unit 1. Now, everybody, let's take a big deep breath together. I've given you a lot of information already. Welcome to real estate school. We guys, fast moving class. We move forward. I don't have a rear view mirror in this class, right? We're always going forward. So let's just take a pause. Everybody, let's just take a big deep breath together. In through the nose, out through the mouth. You guys ready? Wasn't that nice? Y'all please remember to breathe throughout this class. It's so important that you remember to breathe. The good news about unit 1, it's all green stars. It's all level 1. So again, we're just using this as an introduction, as a warm up. I would be shocked if you have a test question specifically from unit 1. Like I said, anything worth testing, we're going to discuss in a future unit. So we're just kind of giving you an idea of what we're going to cover. So our map for unit 1, we're going to distinguish, we're going to introduce you guys to the difference between land, real estate, real property, and personal property. We're going to expand on this when we get to unit 2, but we're just going to introduce it to you right now. We are going to describe some physical and economic characteristics of real property. We're going to talk about the advantages and the disadvantages of owning real estate. Maybe you own your own home. Maybe you're an investor and you own several homes. All real estate is an investment. And then we're going to talk in unit 1 about supply and demand and how it affects the real estate market. So first off, before we move on, let's all understand, I think this is important that we understand early. Real estate is in fact a market. And markets are always adjusting. Markets are always fluctuating. Has anybody, you guys been in the know about what's going on in real estate just in the last 2 years? It has been insane. We list a home for sale and it's under contract within 2 hours, if that. Homes have been flying off the shelves. Prices are high. It's very much been a seller's market. Sellers have been in the driver's seat. And we're starting to see that shift. We're starting to see that change. Sellers didn't have the control today that they had even 5-6 months ago. I always think of the real estate market as a pendulum. And that pendulum is constantly moving. And 8 months ago, we were in a big seller's market, like way up here somewhere. And we're starting to see that pendulum come down. And one day, I don't know when, I don't have a crystal ball, but one day we're going to be back in a buyer's market. And this thing is constantly moving. It doesn't sit still. It doesn't get stagnant. And that's another thing that keeps our industry so interesting, is that it is a market and it fluctuates, and we need to be prepared for those fluctuations. So we'll talk about that market and more about what that means. So first off, see the green star at the top right? Everybody see that? So we know this is a level 1. Do you guys see the 2 at the bottom right? Can you give me a thumbs up if you see the number 2 at the bottom right? Sometimes you see it and sometimes you don't. Zoom is quirky. I don't pretend like I understand. But again, this directs us to where we're going to talk about this. So the first thing we're going to do is distinguish between real property and personal property. Real property is considered everything, land and everything that's permanently attached to it. Now we're going to define land and all that in just a second. Personal property then is anything that's not real property. Can you pick it up and move it? Is it movable? And that's the big distinction between real property and personal property. We're going to have conversations about this when we get to unit 2. We'll talk about fixtures, that kind of thing. So before we go on, let me ask you guys a question. You can shake your head, yes or no. Yes or no. I see your heads move. Have any of you heard? There's a rumor out there on the streets. And have any of you heard the rumor that nothing you learn in pre-licensing you're going to use in the real world? Shake your head yes or no. Have you heard this rumor? Look at all those heads shake yes. Okay, I'm going to debunk that rumor. Day one, slide one. If you're working with buyers, do you think it's important that you know what stays and what goes so you can help your buyers know what they're buying? Do you think buyers will walk into the front door of a house and say, do I get this? Do I get that? Does that stay? Is this going to get? It's important that we have this basic understanding. Now, with that being said, I'm not going to try and fool you guys and make you think that everything you learn in pre-licensing is going to be used in the real world. Again, there's pre-licensing and there's real world. But I don't want you guys coming into this thinking, I just got to get through this and I'm never going to see this stuff again. You're not going to see all of it again, but you are going to see some of it. And having this understanding of what goes when I buy and what is included when I buy is huge when you're working with buyers and sellers. Sellers may not know what they can or can't take. So we're going to have these conversations. Again, we're going to get more in depth than that, a little bit more in depth than that in Unit 2. So later in the course, we're going to talk about agency and how we can create agency relationships and how we form agency and the duties and responsibilities that I owe my buyers and sellers. Don't tell me you're not going to use that in the real world once you get your license. So you don't use everything, but there is a lot from this class, again, that's building that foundation. Still on page 2, we're going to define land. Land is considered the surface, anything on the surface that's detached naturally, trees, ponds, lakes. Land is also includes everything above it up to the infinities. Land is everything below it down to the center of the earth. We're going to talk about your different rights as a homeowner, your air rights, surface rights, and subsurface rights, water rights. We'll talk about those more in Unit 2. But right now, let's just understand that land is everything naturally attached to it, everything above it, everything below it. Once man adds a structure, then you have real estate. So real estate is land plus the physical improvements. You build a house on it, a commercial building, you put a fence on it or a shed, you've improved on the land. When you add an owner's rights, owners to real estate have rights. And when you add their rights, known as the bundle of rights, we have real property. See how it's kind of building off of itself here? We're going to talk about your bundle of rights once we get into Unit 2. Now, a lot of times that, land, real estate, real property used interchangeably. Again, we don't need to, spend too much time worrying about the difference, but just know definitionally, there is that a word, definitionally? It is now. Just know that there is a distinction between land, real estate, and real property. So let's talk about some physical characteristics of real property. Real property is immobile. It is where it is. When I see this, I always think you go to Google Maps and you look an address up and it puts that little red flag on it and tells you that it's right here. That is where it is. That's its location. It's immobile. You can't pick it up, move land. Land is indestructible. Structures come and go. I can tear down a structure, build a new one, but the land is permanent. The land is indestructible. Chick-fil-A likes to do this. You guys ever notice this? They will level a building and then rebuild one. They changed the structure. They didn't change the land. And then all parcels of land are unique. There are no two parcels of land that are the same. Some are similar, some have similar features, but there are no two parcels that are exactly the same. Even if you go into a cookie cutter neighborhood, or you go into a condominium neighborhood or a townhome neighborhood, from the outside, they all look pretty similar, yes? Everything changes when you walk in the front door. So land, property, it's all unique. There are some economic characteristics of real property, and we can help remember these by using the mnemonic SLIP. Land is scarce. There's only so much land to go around. There's only so much land to build on. You guys notice what some of these big cities are doing? If you can't go out anymore, what do? You build up. When you run out of land, have you guys ever wondered why like waterfront property tends to have a higher value? It tends to be more expensive because there's only so much land on that water. It's scarce. Location. I know you guys know this. What are the 3 most important things about real estate? You want to rattle off with me? Location, location, location. Have you guys ever heard that? Guess what is important when it comes to real estate? Location. Location can help determine the value of the structure, the value of the property. We could put value on a home located in, I don't know, Winston-Salem. Put a value on it. What's it worth? We pick that home up and move it to Greensboro. The value has changed. Why? Because the location changed. A lot of times with location, it comes down to people's individual preferences. For example, I'm a beach person. Do I have any other beach people on the, yep, let's go to the beach. The rest of you then, I'm guessing, are mountain people. Where are my mountain people? But yeah, so see, it's a preference. It's a preference. And that's part of what puts, as that economic characteristics, puts that value on it, is people's preferences. Improvements, various things we can do to improve the land. We can add a house, a shed, a fence. We can install, add sidewalks, install street lighting. Any of that improvement is going to partly of what makes real property what it is. And then permanence of an investment, like how, no structure is going to last forever, but we do expect structures to be long-term. We do, you don't want to build a house and have fall down in 5 years, right? We expect these to be permanent. Not permanent, but particularly long-term. It's a long-term investment. And again, structures come and go. It doesn't affect the value of the land. We've made it through the first 6 pages so far. Do I have any questions so far? So far, so good. Great. All right, well, it's break time. So let's go ahead and take 10. We come back, we're going to wrap up unit 1. We won't take long in here. Wrap up unit 1 and then get started on unit 2 tonight. Do we come back? I love it when you come back from break on the first day. I guess the real question is, am I going to see you tomorrow night? That's where the true test is. Again, I hope I'm not scaring anybody off. I'm just trying to be very upfront. I could wait until March 2nd and be like, oh yeah, this stuff is really hard. But I want to make sure we all start off on the same page, so we can all get started. Guys, our time together is going to go by fast. January, February is going to fly by. Doesn't time go by so fast? I mean, goodness, I can't keep up. So please start today. I'm begging you. I'm actually begging you. Please start today. Please commit today. Everybody cool? Thumbs ups, head bobs, some kind of acknowledgement. Good. Thank you. All right. So let me do my screenshot. So everybody say money. Money. Better yet, how about lots and lots of money? All right. So continuing in Unit 1, we talked about our physical and economic characteristics. Let's talk about use. One term that we use when we talk about real estate and we talk about the use of real estate is something called the highest and best use. Highest and best use is the most profitable single use that a property currently has. A property can only have one highest and best use at a time, but that highest and best use can change over time. Think of your favorite, for example, think of your favorite, let's just say a retail shopping center. My Winston-Salem people, I generally think of Thruway Shopping Center. Do we believe that Thruway has been there forever? Like forever and ever and ever, ever and ever and ever. Back in the 1800s was Thruway Shopping Center? Probably not. I don't know this for a fact, but let's presume that once upon a time ago, what is now Thruway Shopping Center was farmland. It was agricultural, and its highest and best use would have been for agricultural. But then Winston-Salem started expanding. Winston started growing. And then they put in, for example, 421 or Salem Parkway, Business 40, whatever you want to call it. And there became a need for restaurants and gas stations. And as time went on, we eventually got Thruway. So where it used to be its highest and best use was agricultural, today its highest and best use is commercial because of the infrastructure, because of the change. What's it going to be 50 years from now? I have no idea. But the highest and best use can and does change to keep up with the changing area, the changing surrounding. Now, highest and best use is actually an appraiser's tool. We got a whole unit dedicated to the appraiser and the appraiser's process. So we're going to see highest and best use again when we get to Unit 17. And we get to wear our appraiser's hat. We get to wear a couple different hats in this class. So we'll talk more about this in Unit 17, how the appraiser utilizes this when they're trying to come to their estimate of value. Another example of use that we have are land use controls. This is what Unit 6 is dedicated to, is land use controls. And basically, we have two different land use controls. Public controls are zoning. So when we get to Unit 6, we're going to talk about zoning. We're going to define some zoning terms, have a better understanding about zoning. Private controls are our restrictive covenants. So if any of you live in an HOA or a homeowners association, you're going to have private controls. Again, we'll see this in Unit 6. So kind of a preview of things to come. And then we talk about real estate as an investment. Now, whether you're a homeowner and you just own that one property, maybe you're an investor and you own 25. Real estate is an investment. And as with anything, there's pluses and minuses. There's good and bad. So when we talk about real estate as an investment and some advantages to owning real estate as an investment real estate tends to have a good rate of return, which means you generally, as long as you hang on to it long enough, you generally can get your money back, maybe even make some money. I don't think real estate was ever meant to be a short-term investment. One way to make money from real estate is to allow that investment to grow. Another advantage, real estate tends to keep pace with inflation. Some markets are better to sell than others. Some markets are better to buy than others. But as the economy changes and fluctuates, we tend to notice that real estate follows pace. And when times are good in the economy, times are good in real estate. So it can keep pace with inflation. I think it just kind of gave you a disadvantage because when times are not good in the economy, they're not always great in real estate. They keep pace. And then as an owner of real estate, you may have some tax advantages. One big thing we do in this class is teach you guys to stay in your lane. Unless you're a CPA or an accountant, guys, we can't give tax advice. When you're buyers and sellers, property owners, landlords, tenants, when they start asking questions about tax advice, we need to know when to say, that's a really good question. I think you should call your accountant. Part of this class, and this is the part of this class that makes me the most nervous. Part of this class is teaching you guys just enough to be dangerous. I'm giving you more information than what you need in some cases, not that you're going to use it, but if a buyer ever asks, you know how to answer, you know how to direct them and where to send them. And that's why I say a big part of this class is making sure that we know to stay in our lane. Just because I have a real estate license does not mean I can give tax advice. Everybody with me? So we have, we advise our clients to talk to their accountants to learn what those possible tax advantages of real estate as an investment is. Of course, with the good also comes the bad. Some disadvantages for real estate as an investment. Real estate is not liquid. Can anybody tell me what I mean by that? And feel free to chat or unmute, whichever you want to do. What do I mean by real estate is not liquid?
Not easily turned into cash.
There you go. If I need money today, I'm not going to be able to get it by my property. I'm not going to be able to get it by my real estate. If I need money today, how am I going to get it? I'm going to cash in my stocks or bonds. I'm going to drain my savings account. That is liquid money. That is liquid. With real estate, I'll get the cash out of it, but I got to find a buyer and put them on a contract and go through the process. It takes time. So it's not liquid. Another disadvantage, we just mentioned talking about your tax counsel. There may be situations where your buyers or sellers may need legal counsel. Unfortunately, attorneys and accountants do not work for free. So there could be some costs involved when we need legal or tax counsel, when we know to speak to others, the professionals. To get your money back, it takes work to grow your money. Y'all, we can't just buy a house and not touch it for 30 years and expect to turn around and sell it for a profit. At some point in that 30 years, you're going to have to put a new coat of paint. You're going to have to put down new carpet. You're probably going to have to get a new roof, new HVAC system. There's work involved to grow your money so you can get that good rate of return. And then again, as with that advantage of the good rate of return, a disadvantage, there's a high degree of risk. 8 months ago, 2 years ago was the absolute best time to sell your house. The concern was, where are you gonna go? It was the worst time to buy. Was anybody personally involved in that? Did anybody try to buy a house in the last couple of years? Couple of, man, my hat's off to you. It was ugly out there. I'm glad I wasn't a buyer out there a couple of years ago. But again, we're going to see that pendulum swing back. And guess what? One day the buyers are going to be in control and the sellers may have that disadvantage. They may have that risk. So, if you want that good rate of return, you may have to ride out the buyer's market to get back to seller's marks. That makes sense, knowing that it's gonna come back. So there's a degree of risk involved, always, always. And then over on page 8, we start talking about the scope of the business, the various things that are involved with real estate. Brokerage is why we are here. The idea of brokerage is connecting buyer and seller, putting buyer and seller together in this transaction. We're going to talk about brokerage. We got units dedicated to agency and brokers and brokerage. The appraiser, it is an important part of the real estate business. Offer their opinion. Again, I got a whole unit dedicated to the appraiser. That's unit 17. You may have property managers, property management. A homeowner hires an agent to manage their property, handle the day-to-day operations of the property. I got a whole unit dedicated to property management as well. Unit 12, we will talk about property management. By the way, unit 11, we're going to talk about the relationship between the landlord and the tenant. So we're going to first talk about their relationship in 11, and then we're going to bring the property manager in unit 12. Financing. Not all of us are fortunate enough to be able to buy a house with cash. So for the rest of us, we need financing. We need loans. We need money to buy. I got 2 units dedicated to financing. Units 14 and 15, we're going to put on our mortgage lender hat. We're going to learn the basics of the lending side, the financing involved for real estate. Property development, building, construction, new construction. Obviously, always building new. Probably where most of us are located, you don't have to drive far to see something new being built, do you? We're in a good time for development. Counseling, offering advice, trying to get our buyers and sellers through the transaction, having the knowledge and the foundation that we're learning in this class to best assist our buyers and sellers through the transaction, and offer our counsel, offer our advice. Education is the big reason why we're here. Real Estate Commission says you need to be here to get your license. They talked about pre-licensing, there's post-licensing, there's CE, there's stuff when you get out too. Please don't think that once you get your license, you're done learning. It's constantly evolving. The Real Estate Commission not only educates agents and future agents, the Real Estate Commission also provides education for the public. They have literature on their website. We're going to actually look at their website in a couple weeks, but they got good literature on there to help educate the public on the process of buying and selling. This other area is kind of the catch-all. I think a good example of something we can see in others, maybe if you're involved in the local zoning board, planning committee, for example, absolutely in the scope of real estate. And then the last piece of this are various professional organizations, trade groups that you may choose to join once you do have your license. Maybe your firm will require you to join. Maybe they won't, but there's options, opportunities out there. Probably one of the biggest professional organizations, and one that you guys have probably heard of, on page 10. The first one there is the National Association of Realtors. You guys heard of the National Association of Realtors, or NAR, we like to call it. Once you get your license, and you affiliate with a firm, your firm possibly may require you to join the National Association of Realtors, making you a realtor. You can't rock that capital R until you join the National Association of Realtors. Now, there's different levels too. Of course, NAR is the national. It's not in your book, but another one we'll talk about is the North Carolina Association of Realtors, NCAR. The North Carolina Association of Realtors provides us with our forms that we use every day, our pre-printed contracts, our pre-printed agency agreements. So by joining that organization, that professional organization, you have access to the forms. And then there's also local boards. So for example, there's the Winston-Salem Board of Realtors, High Point Board of Realtors, Greensboro, Lexington, Asheboro, Charlotte, Wilmington, Raleigh. They're all over the state. I think I heard once that there were like 40 some local boards of realtors across the state of North Carolina. So again, we're going to talk about you guys affiliating with your firms. We'll get there, but some firms may require you to join the local organization. Some may not. They're all different. But each of them offers something different. Each of them provides you with different materials. It's just a matter of whether or not you're going to take advantage of that. So let's understand something. Let's go back to the realtor thing for a second. Let's make sure we understand something. Once you get your license, you are a broker. Once you're a broker, then you can join NAR. It's not required, but you have that option. So you can't join NAR just yet. Give me 1 second to make sure I say this right, because I always got to pause to make sure I say it right. All brokers are realtors. Nope, I didn't do it right. See, I didn't do it right. All realtors are brokers, but not all brokers are realtors. Can I do it again? Gosh, it's 8 o'clock at night. Give me a second. Okay, so all realtors are brokers. Am I doing good? But not all brokers are realtors. Phew, you try that. That's tough. That's one of those ones I always got to stop and think about. Again, you get your license, you're a broker. Whether or not you take that brokerage to the next level and join the professional organization, become a realtor, maybe it's a requirement by your firm, maybe you choose to do it. But just know that there's tools and all sorts of education, all sorts of stuff out there for you guys once you get your license. How we use real property, there's the main categories. There's residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, special purpose. Examples of special purpose might be churches, schools, cemeteries, hospitals. These broad categories have a lot of smaller subcategories. So for example, it may be classified as commercial, but now we need a subcategory to know, is it retail? Is it office space? Like what kind of commercial? When we say residential, is it single family use, multifamily use? So how we use real estate, and a lot of how we use the property is dictated by our zoning. Again, we're going to talk about when we get to Unit 6. So the real estate market, supply and demand. Guys, the truth is real estate agents do not sit around chit-chatting about supply and demand. We don't use these words. What we talk about amongst ourselves is buyers markets and sellers markets. And that correlates to the supply and the demand of the real estate market. Here's your economic 101 lesson for the night. Did y'all know you were getting an economics lesson today? So here we are. What are the basics of supply and demand? The basics of supply and demand say when demand is high, supply is low. And when supply is high, demand is low. There's your economics 101. Let's put that in terms of the real estate market. In a seller's market, supply is high and demand is low. In a buyer's market, supply is high and demand is low. It tells us who's in control, who's in the driver's seat. Again, for those of you that have been following the real estate market and familiar with what's been going on the last couple of years, we've been in a huge seller's market because demand is super high, but supply is really low. We've had low inventory, but we're in a new year now, aren't we? 2021, we had historically low interest rates. And that was creating a very high demand for buyers. They wanted to take, heck yeah, you want to take advantage of a 2% interest rate or a 3% interest rate. The problem these buyers were having is there was no inventory. There was nothing to buy. And that's what's made this past market so challenging. My team leader has been at this for like 35 years. I mean, I only have 22, right? She's been at this for 35 years. And she has said these last couple years have presented the biggest challenges that she has seen to date, that she has seen in her career. It's been a very unique market. Guess what? The next market isn't going to look like a previous market. The market after that, the market after that, they're all different. And that's that fluctuating in real estate. I tend to make a joke, and I guess it's funny because it's true. I don't know. But we often say that the only thing consistent in real estate is change. So hang on to your hats, because you're going to start, how you work in a seller's market is different than how you work in a buyer's market, for example. So breaking down some of these with supply, things that affect supply or labor force and construction costs. We all know countrywide in the last couple of years, we've been dealing with supply shortages, with labor shortages. Absolutely, that affects real estate as well. New construction, for example, had a heck of a time a couple of years ago because they couldn't get supplies. Well, it's kind of hard to build a house if you don't have supplies coming in, if you have a supply shortage. Other things that affect supply: government controls and financial policies, zoning, tax rates, changing in county taxes, even just the federal government, how they control the money, absolutely trickles down and affects the real estate market and the supply. Various things that affect demand, population. I think in a lot of areas we're seeing growth in population, but guess what? It's not always growth. Sometimes it's decline. So how cities and counties, real estate is affected by population, we can certainly see trends there. Demographics, family size, different dynamics that we're seeing under the roof. We're starting to see adult kids move back home. We're seeing mom and dad move in with adult kids. We're having multiple families under one roof. We're starting to see some of these change in demographics, and that's affecting the demand. People are living longer than what we ever have before, and that's affecting the demand. And then lastly, here we have employment and wage levels. As you have places where plants open, plants close, you absolutely can see some of those trends in the real estate market. Where are my Kernersville people? My K Vegas? A couple of you, just a few of you. You guys remember, and if you're not K Vegas, that's okay. I say a couple years ago, time gets away from me. I don't know, 8 years ago, 12 years ago, something like that. Does anybody remember when Caterpillar announced that they were opening a plant in Kernersville? Caterpillar said, hey, we're going to build a plant. We're moving to Kernersville. What do you think happened to the real estate market in Kernersville? It took off, didn't it? Because we got this huge plant coming. We got this plant opening. Now flip that coin. Not about that time in Kernersville, Dell announced that they were closing their doors. How do you think that impacted Kernersville? Sometimes people have to follow the jobs, right? They have to follow the work. And as plants open and close, you definitely see those trends in real estate as well. Real estate market. Well, guess what, guys? We have successfully made it through our first unit. So at the end of each unit, I like to remind you guys that you have key terms at the beginning of a unit. In this case, this is on page 1. Also, at the end of each unit, you have that key point review. In this case, it's on page 15. And then your student quiz that is on page 17. And again, when we come together tomorrow night, we're going to take a few minutes and go through just a couple. I'm not going through all of Unit 1 quiz, but just a couple of these questions. Maybe we can help you identify and how to dissect and work your way through some of these problems. What questions do I have from Unit 1? Cool. Big deep breath. Unit 2. Here we go. I said we just keep moving. I have no rear view mirror in this class. We just keep going forward. How many of you, I think I asked this earlier, but how many of you got a chance to look at Unit 2 before tonight? Good handful of you. Good. There's some weird stuff in Unit 2, isn't there? We already start just getting into some weird stuff, some new concepts, some new ideas. Again, you guys, you're learning a new industry. In a sense, you're learning a new language. And, you know, by the time I'm done with you guys, I have you speaking broker, but we're introducing you to lots of new stuff. So in Unit 2, we're going to go through property ownership and interests. And again, our roadmap for Unit 2. We're going to spend a little bit more time talking about real property and personal property. We introduced it to you in Unit 1, so we're going to spend some more time on that in Unit 2. We're going to define what an estate is, and then we're going to talk about the different types of estates. It'd be way too easy just to have one kind of estate, right? So we're going to talk about the several different types of estates that we have that we may encounter. We're also going to talk about the different ways that individuals can own property. So there's several different forms of ownership. And then we're going to distinguish between some common interest communities. So think of like condominiums, townhomes, that kind of thing. So we're going to talk about that as well. Obviously, we're not going to get through Unit 2 tonight. So we'll go, you know, until 8:30, and then we'll know where to pick up tomorrow night. So starting on page 3, y'all remember way back in Unit 1, we defined real property. And we said you take the land, which is the surface and everything naturally attached to it, the air rights and the subsurface rights. Once man adds an improvement, and then you include a homeowner's legal bundle of rights. And that is the definition of real property: land plus structure plus the owner's bundle of rights. So let's talk now about those bundle of legal rights. And one way I like to remember the bundle of legal rights is to remember the acronym DEEP C. So we'll define that in just a second. A good question comes in. Can you do the practice quizzes on the online learning system multiple times? Yep, you can do them as many times as you want to. So we're keeping our quizzes in the book clean so we can take them over and over again. And now we know that we can, thank you for that question. And now we know that we can take those quizzes in the online learning system again and again as well. So let's talk about the homeowner's bundle of legal rights. The D twig is our disposition twig. And what the disposition twig says is the right that the owner has to transfer your property. As the owner of this property, you have the right to sell it. You can gift it. You have the right to dispose of it as you choose. Our second twig is our E twig, one of our E twigs. And this twig is our enjoyment twig. Property owners have the right to enjoy their property. You can do whatever you want to with your property as long as it's in the confines of the law. You can never break the rules. You can never break the law. So if zoning tells you how you can or can't use your property, you can enjoy it within the confines of those laws. You don't have to worry. You shouldn't have to worry about harassment from others, again, as long as you're in the confines of the law. Our next E twig is our exclusion twig. This is the twig that I have the right to say, no trespassing. I don't want you on my property. I can say, do not come on my property. I can exclude you from my property. The P twig is the possession twig, which is the opposite of exclusion. I have the right to say you can't come on my property, but guess what? I also have the right to say you can come on my property. Who can possess my property? Who is allowed on my property? And then finally, our C twig is our control twig. I have the right to profit from my property. If I want to put a tenant in my property, I can. If I want to plant corn and sell it, as long as it's in the confines of the law, like zoning, I can profit from my property. I can control how my property is used. So the idea behind the bundle of legal rights, now obviously this, is the visual, is the image, but as a homeowner, once you purchase property, you also, with it comes these twigs, comes these rights. And I think it's important that we understand that while your bundle of legal rights is bundled, it's important to know that they can be unbundled. So for example, if you choose to allow a tenant to occupy your property, obviously in exchange for rent, you're giving that tenant some of your twigs. Now they're the ones that have the possession twig, the enjoyment twig, the exclusion twig. So our bundle of rights can be unbundled if we choose. You don't have to let a tenant live there, but if you choose. Okay. Y'all ready for our first yellow star? This is very exciting. You guys ready? Ready? Here's our first yellow star, our first big word in real estate. Appurtenances. What? Appurtenances are things that run with the land. They are conveyed from one property owner to the next, to the next, to the next. They run with the land. By the way, when I talk about conveying property, when you convey your property, you're transferring, you're giving it to somebody else. So an appurtenance is something that runs with the land. It's a right or privilege that goes with the ownership. When you sell, those things go with it. We're going to talk more in just a minute about subsurface rights, air rights, and water rights, but those things are generally considered appurtenant. For your exam, the real estate, I love heads snap up when I say that. What? For your exam, the Real Estate Commission says that we need to consider improvements as appurtenant. So in other words, the structure is going to convey, the fence is going to convey, the shed is going to convey. If you're in an HOA, you have restrictive covenants. Those are considered appurtenant. They convey, they run with the land. So they say any improvements. And just as kind of a side note, when we talk about improvements, generally we're speaking about either improved land or an improved lot. And it's slight, but there is a distinction between the two. Improved land is land with a structure. It has plumbing, it has electricity, it has, Google fiber optics or whatever we have to get our internet. An improved lot has not been developed. It's not had anything to it. It's not been touched. There is no plumbing. There is no electricity. There is no structure. And again, remember what we said. Any improvement is considered, for your exam, is considered appurtenant. It runs with the land. So let's talk about your subsurface rights. First off, what are your subsurface rights? Rights to the subsurface under your property would include rights to like minerals and gases and oils. And it's important that we understand that your subsurface rights can be severed, which means somebody could come in and purchase the right to your minerals, to your gases, to your oils, whatever's under your surface. Sellers need to disclose to buyers whether or not they have or intend to sever their subsurface rights. And as a matter of fact, we have a form for the sellers to use to disclose that information. We're going to look at that form when we get to Unit 8 and we talk about working with sellers. When it comes to this, I always think, you know, bottom line, buyers deserve to know what they're buying. Would you guys agree with that statement? Buyers have the right to know what they're buying. So if the seller has severed their rights, which means the seller has purchased the right to oil, if any oil is found in the ground, doesn't the buyer deserve to know that? Don't they have the right to know that? As opposed to letting the buyer dig in their backyard one day, strike oil, think they've made it rich. Lo and behold, the seller owns those rights. So again, we're going to look at a form in Unit 8 where the seller discloses that they have severed or they intend to sever before they convey the property. So we'll see this again. We also have air rights. Air rights can also be severed. Any of you live near, this is a picture of PTI. Any of you live near an airport? Couple of you? Yep, guess what? Your air rights have been severed. The airport has permission through the courts to fly their plane over your home. You cannot go out there and say, don't you fly your plane. I mean, you could, but it's not going to get you anywhere, right? The airports, through the court system, through the process, have severed those rights where they have permission to fly. I don't know how well you guys can see this, but if like this darker gray area is PTI, a lot of what's around here is residential. So PTI flies over lots of houses and they have that right to do that. So because those air rights can be severed. Water rights cannot be severed, cannot be severed. When we talk about water rights, we're referring to rights that a homeowner has when their property is adjacent to or butts up to a body of water. So subsurface rights can be severed. Somebody else can purchase your subsurface rights. Air rights can be severed. The courts can grant permission. Water rights cannot be severed. We actually have two different types of water rights. So we're going to break this out a little bit. I have two types of water rights. The first type of water rights are called riparian water rights. These refer to properties that are adjacent to bodies of water without a tide. Write that down. Riparian equals no tide. So the bodies of water that riparian rights are referring to are rivers, streams, creeks, lakes, ponds. There are two types of riparian rights. The first type of riparian rights are bodies of water that are non-navigable. Now, what I mean by that is you can't get a boat down it. You can't get a vessel down it. Think of non-navigable as a stream or a creek. And the rules with non-navigable says that the owners own to the center of the stream or the creek. Think of it as like a shared driveway. We both have an interest in this portion of the stream or the creek. So owners own to the center. The other riparian right that we have is navigable. Now we're getting a boat down it. Lakes, rivers. With navigable bodies of water, homeowners own to the water edge. Somebody else owns the water. Now let me go ahead, because I get a lot of questions about this. So let me go ahead and clarify this. You may have a body of water that somebody owns. I always use Blues Creek. Anybody familiar with Blues Creek? It's up there like north of Kernersville, pretty nice area. Whomever owns Blues Creek allows homeowners to put docks in their water. Everybody with me? Somebody else owns that water, and that person allows the homeowner. So the docks aren't there, nothing to do with riparian rights. The docks are there because whomever owns that body of water allows them to put docks in so they can put their boats in and out of water. Same thing with like Jordan Lake down there with my Raleigh people. With navigable rivers, think about the street that runs in front of your house. Can you go out there and tell traffic not to drive down your street? Do you have that right? Unfortunately, no. Please don't put yourself in that danger, right? But you don't have, and same thing with a navigable body of water. You don't have the right to go out there and say, you can't drive your boat. That's not right. You can't float your boat. Let's just say that. You can't move your boat down this navigable body of water. Again, it's like the public street. If you have a dock there, it's because they allow you to put that in. And that's probably part of your owners association. We'll talk about owners associations and those public land use controls when we get into Unit 6. So riparian rights are rights when your property is adjacent to a body of water without a tide. Littoral rights then are bodies of water that do have a tide. So our ocean, the sounds that we see at the ocean. And what littoral rights say is that the homeowner owns to the average high tide mark. So how far your property goes out with a body of water with the tide is the average of the high tide. High tide to low tide is owned by state of North Carolina. Thank you, North Carolina, for letting us walk on your beaches, most of them. Low tide out to international waterways is owned by the government. Everybody's got ownership, and then we hit international waterways. So everybody's got ownership to it. So riparian, bodies of water with no tide, littoral, bodies of waters with the tide. Do you have any questions? It's good stuff, isn't it? Something we do not have here in North Carolina, so you're not going to see this on a state-specific question, but you may see it in the national. States out west tend to handle their water rights a little bit different. And out west, they may use something called the doctrine of prior appropriation, which basically says first come, first serve. The first person that can show up and say, this is how I want to use beneficial use of the property, they're given that right, which means you could own, out west, you could own a property that butts up to a body of water, but you don't have the rights to use that water. Doctrine of prior appropriation. Good. I love seeing light bulbs. Yes.
Even though we're in North Carolina, we're covering this?
Well, it could be on the national section. Yep, could be. It's in the syllabus. So just some, let's see, we're on the top of page 24. Just some basic terms when it comes to water rights. Accretion, gradual increase in land from the deposit of soil. So, I mean, guys, we pretty much know water is going to do what it wants to do, right? And if it wants to move soil around, if it wants to move land around, it's going to do that. So the gradual increase in land, because water moved it, Reliction is the increase in land when water recedes. So as the water goes down, you get more land. Erosion is the gradual wearing away of land. Water flows downstream, it takes land with it. It's erosion. And then you have avulsion, sudden act of nature. Think of like a mudslide, for example, suddenly moves land. These water terms, on top of page 24 there, 24, that kind of describes how water can affect boundaries. And I think it's important that, you know, if you live on a body of water, your land may change as the water changes the land. So, you know, nothing's really forever in that. Also with property owners, you get support rights, and there's a couple different types of support that we have. Lateral support. Lateral means side. So what lateral support rights say, if your neighbor wants to just start digging, they want to bring in the backhoe and they start digging, you as the homeowner next to them have the right to have your land supported, even though they choose to dig. Can you guys see this picture? I mean, they got two backhoes down here. They're really going down. But see, they have the land next to them supported, and that's our lateral support. If your neighbor starts digging, you shouldn't expect your property to be affected by it. Another support right we have is subjacent, which is under. I think the best example I have for us is subjacent support is up in our coal mines in West Virginia. You know, people coal mine like miles beneath the surface. But those miners down there, as they're mining, as they're digging, the person that lives on the land above them has the right to have their land supported. So in other words, they shouldn't expect it to, you know, cave in, cave down as these coal miners are down there doing their mining. So various supports. Questions? Moving right along. Revisiting and getting in more detail in our conversation about personal property and real property. You guys go good going forward. I've referred to personal property in our PowerPoints as PP and real property is RP. Everybody know what we mean here? RP is real property, PP is personal property. So back in unit 1, we defined personal property. Personal property is anything that's not real property. Again, the big distinction, the big characteristic is, can you pick it up and move it? If you can pick it up and move it, then it's considered personal property. If it's attached, if it's permanent, then it's considered real property. We will get started on this conversation tonight, however far we get, which won't be too much further. And then we'll be able to continue and pick back up with personal property and real property tomorrow night. So when we talk about personal property and real property, one thing to consider is when talking about plants and shrubbery. Are they considered personal property and real property or real property? And the answer is, it depends. If the shrubbery does not require annual cultivation, so think shrubs, bushes, trees, you know, things that you plant and you walk away with, you're done. You don't have to do anything to year after year. Those, known as fructose naturals, are considered real property. So in other words, unless excluded, they will convey. They're a fixture, they're attached. Now, one thing we're going to learn when we start talking about fixtures tomorrow, anything's negotiable, you guys. Fixtures can be excluded. Personal property can be included. I think that's important that we get this on day one. Anything can be negotiable. So if the seller really wants to take the tree that's planted in their front yard, can they? Sure. What we need to learn is how we're going to handle that. And that's more the conversation we'll get into tomorrow night. But for right now, plants that do not require annual cultivation are considered real property. Fructose industrials are plants that do require annual cultivation. So you got to plant it each year. I wish I could plant corn once and be done, and corn would grow there in that same spot every year. Corn doesn't work that way though, does it? If you want fresh corn from your garden each year, you got to plant it every year. Whether or not an annual crop is considered real property or personal property depends on if it's for sale or for lease. If the tenant farmer plants their crop and then their lease runs out, they have the right to come back on the property and harvest that year's crop. Now they're not going to be able to plant again, right? But it's considered personal property, which means the tenant farmer has the right, when the corn's ready, to come back and pick their corn. If it's for sale, that corn is considered real property, or that annual crop is considered real property. And it's going to convey again, keeping in mind, anything and everything are negotiable. What questions do we have? How we doing? Day one? Am I gonna see you guys tomorrow night? Cool. All right. So we're gonna wrap up here today. When we come, and don't go anywhere just yet, please. When we come back tomorrow, we're gonna get into a conversation about fixtures, what happens to fixtures, various things we need to know about that. We will continue in Unit 2. If we get to Unit 3, it won't be much. We won't get much into Unit 3. So we'll just truck right along. Again, if you have the chance, if you haven't looked at Unit 2 yet, please try to do so before tomorrow. And then you guys will have the weekend to kind of get caught up. I understand this night class can be tricky because a lot of you work during the day. So please know that that means that the weekend is pretty much your study time, if that's the situation you fall into. So thank you guys for being here. Don't forget to send me your selfie with your introduction. Go calculator shopping. I hope you guys have a wonderful night, and I will see you guys tomorrow, 5:30 sharp. We'll get started tomorrow night. So you guys have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie.
Thank you.